You know how we're always looking for planets like Earth? Well, what if some planets are so strange they make Earth look like, well, boring? That's what we're going to dive into today. Planets so bizarre, they challenge everything we thought we knew about the universe. Welcome to Cosmos in a Pod, our space and astronomy series.
It's amazing, right? These discoveries force us to rethink, our assumptions about planets, how they form, how they behave. It's a reminder that we've barely, scratched the surface of what's out there.
Okay, so let's jump right in. We've got some pretty mind-boggling data from telescopes like Kepler. Okay, first up is Kepler-413b. Now, this one plays a cosmic game of hide and seek. What is going on with this elusive planet?
Yeah, so Kepler-413b orbits a binary star system, meaning it's dancing around two stars instead of just one. And that gravitational tug of war between the planet and its two stars, well, it creates some crazy orbital dynamics.
So instead of a nice predictable orbit, it's more of a cosmic wobble.
Exactly. It's like a spinning top about to fall over. And this wobble is so significant that it causes the planet to literally vanish from our telescope's view. I mean, it dips out of sight for a while and then pops back in.
Wow, that's got to have some pretty crazy implications
Yeah.
for anything that might be living on this planet. I mean, if there is anything, talk about unpredictable seasons.
You're thinking along the right lines. The climate swings would be extreme. One moment, a hemisphere could be basking in the light of two suns, the next plunged into frigid darkness. And it's not just the temperature swings. Those gravitational forces probably trigger massive volcanic eruptions and planet-sized storms. It's a world in constant turmoil.
Wow, that's incredible and kind of terrifying at the same time. All right, let's move on to another extreme world, HD 80606b. This one seems to have a thing for dramatic entrances. What makes this planet so unique?
HD 80606b is a gas giant that swings around its star in a crazy orbit, more like a comet than a planet. And because of this super eccentric orbit, it experiences some of the most extreme temperature variations we've ever observed.
So we're not just talking hot here. We're talking like scorching, right?
Oh, way beyond scorching. Imagine a temperature spike from 500 to 1200 degrees Celsius, and that happens in just 6 hours.
6 hours. That's mind-blowing. What does that kind of heat do to a planet? I mean, can an atmosphere even survive that?
It's enough to vaporize rock. And the wind, supersonic winds whipping around the planet at insane speeds. Basically, the atmosphere turns into a giant pressure cooker. Every time this planet gets close to its star, it gets a complete atmospheric makeover.
It's almost like the planet is being reborn with each orbit. Okay, so we've got disappearing planets and planets that get blasted with incredible heat. What other weirdness is out there? Tell me about the Kepler-36 system. I heard it has some close encounters of the planetary kind.
The Kepler-36 system. Oh, that's a fascinating case of two planets locked in a very, very tight orbital dance. We're talking a rocky super-Earth and a gassy mini-Neptune. They orbit incredibly close to each other. So close, in fact, that their gravity creates some dramatic effects.
Okay, this sounds interesting. What does that gravitational interplay actually look like on those planets?
Imagine a constant cycle of tidal forces stretching and squeezing these planets, triggering massive volcanic eruptions on the super-Earth, and potentially ripping apart the mini-Neptune's atmosphere. It's a cosmic tug-of-war that's slowly but surely reshaping both worlds.
So it's not just a dance, it's kind of a destructive dance. What's the long-term prognosis for these two?
Sadly, it's not a happy ending. Scientists predict that these two planets are on a collision course. Eventually, they'll smash into each other. It'll be a cataclysmic event. Debris will be scattered throughout the system. It's a reminder that planetary systems are dynamic, constantly evolving, and sometimes those evolutions can be pretty violent.
All right, so far we've got planets playing hide and seek, planets getting blasted with insane heat, and planets locked in a deadly gravitational tango. The universe definitely has a flair for the dramatic, doesn't it? Let's switch gears for a moment and talk about a planet that takes accessorizing to a whole new level. I'm talking about Super Saturn, otherwise known as J1407b. Tell me about this planet's impressive ring system.
If you think Saturn's rings are impressive, get ready to have your mind blown. Super Saturn's rings are absolutely colossal. They dwarf anything we've ever seen in our solar system. We're talking rings so vast that if they were around Saturn, they'd stretch across the distance from the Sun to Venus.
Wait, you're saying these rings are the size of a planet's orbit? That's insane. What would it be like to witness those rings up close?
It would be an unforgettable sight. Imagine a moon orbiting this planet. Instead of a starry night sky, you'd have these enormous luminous rings dominating the view. It would be a breathtaking spectacle.
I bet. But you said something about these rings being temporary. What happens to them over time?
As majestic as they are, these rings are slowly disintegrating. Over millions of years, the material either falls onto the planet or gets flung out into space. It's a cosmic balancing act. A reminder that even the most impressive structures in the universe are subject to change.
So it's a fleeting beauty, kind of like a cosmic fireworks display. Speaking of those rings, there's been some buzz about gaps in the rings, right? What's the story there?
Those gaps are incredibly intriguing. They suggest the presence of exomoons, potentially some that are Earth-sized. Imagine the view from one of those moons, a gas giant glowing like 70 full moons in the sky, casting a soft twilight across the surface.
Wow, that's a view I'd love to see. Okay, so we've covered planets with bizarre orbits, extreme temperatures, and rings that dwarf our solar system. What other anomalies are lurking out there in the vastness of space?
Well, let's shift our focus beyond traditional planets and talk about brown dwarfs. Think of them as the almost stars of the universe. They're bigger than planets, but not massive enough to ignite and shine like a true star.
I'm intrigued. What makes these brown dwarfs so interesting from an anomaly perspective?
Well, while they might not be stars, they can have their own systems of moons. And we've discovered one brown dwarf in particular that's creating some serious chaos for its orbiting moons.
Okay, I'm sensing a butt coming.
But the gravitational forces from this brown dwarf are so strong they cause massive tidal bulges on its moons, triggering constant volcanic eruptions and potentially even creating subsurface oceans of liquid water.
So it's a world of constant upheaval. Not exactly a peaceful vacation spot.
Definitely not. But some scientists believe these extreme environments could actually harbor some form of life, adapted to these wild conditions.
The life that thrives on chaos. That's a mind-blowing thought. All right, we have explored some truly bizarre planets today. What does all this tell us about the universe?
It tells us that the universe is far stranger and more diverse than we ever imagined. There are planets out there that disappear and reappear, planets that get blasted with incredible heat, and planets with rings that dwarf our solar system, and we've only just begun to explore.
It's incredible to think that we're still making these kinds of discoveries. It really makes you wonder what else is out there just waiting to be found. But that's a conversation for another time.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll even find a planet that makes these anomalous worlds look ordinary.
That's a thought. Okay, I want to circle back to those brown dwarfs for a second. You said they can have their own systems of moons. What would it actually be like to stand on one of those moons with a brown dwarf looming in the sky?
Well, standing might be a challenge. The gravitational forces from the brown dwarf are so strong they'd probably trigger constant earthquakes. Volcanic eruptions would be the norm. Imagine a landscape that's constantly shifting, reshaping itself, with molten lava flows and geysers erupting all around you.
Sounds pretty intense. And what about the sky? Would the brown dwarf provide any light or heat?
It wouldn't be like our sun, that's for sure. Brown dwarfs emit mostly infrared radiation, which we can't see. But they'd still give off a faint glow, maybe a deep red or a dull orange. And the heat would be significant, especially considering the tidal forces are also generating internal heat within the moon itself.
So it wouldn't be a frozen wasteland, but it wouldn't be a tropical paradise either. It makes you wonder what kind of life could adapt to such a dynamic, volatile environment.
That's one of the most exciting questions scientists are grappling with right now. Could these extreme environments actually be more hospitable to life than we thought? Could there be life forms out there that thrive on chaos and instability, utilizing energy sources and chemical processes that we haven't even imagined?
It's a reminder that life finds a way, even in the most unexpected places. Speaking of unexpected, let's shift gears back to planetary classification for a moment. With all these new discoveries, is our traditional way of categorizing planets still relevant? I mean, where do you even begin to classify a planet that disappears or has rings the size of Venus's orbit?
It's definitely becoming more challenging to fit all these new discoveries into our neat little boxes. Our traditional categories, gas giants, ice giants, rocky planets, they're based on what we observed in our own solar system. But as we venture out into the galaxy, we're finding planets that blur the lines between those categories.
So are we going to need a whole new planetary dictionary to keep up with all these discoveries?
It's possible. The exciting thing is with every new discovery, we're refining our understanding of planetary formation and evolution. We're starting to see patterns and connections that we didn't even know existed before.
It's like we're piecing together a giant cosmic puzzle, one planet at a time. Okay, I have to ask about those super-Earths and mini-Neptunes again. They seem to be popping up everywhere. What makes them so common, and what are we learning from them?
Super-Earths and mini-Neptunes are definitely the in thing right now in planetary science. They're fascinating because they represent a kind of planetary middle ground, bigger than Earth, smaller than Neptune, and then diversity is incredible. Some are rocky, some are icy, some have thick atmospheres. They're really challenging our assumptions about what a planet should look like.
So it's not just about size, it's about composition and atmosphere too.
Exactly. We're realizing that a planet's mass and size don't necessarily dictate its overall character. There's a whole range of factors at play. The planet's formation history, its distance from its star, the presence or absence of a magnetic field, all these things contribute to a planet's unique identity.
It's like every planet has its own story to tell. Okay,
Yes.
before we move on, I want to go back to Super Saturn and those massive rings for a moment.
Yeah.
You mentioned they're disintegrating. What actually happens to all that material? Does it just vanish?
Nothing in the universe simply vanishes. It's all about transformation. Some of that ring material will spiral inward, pulled by the planet's gravity, eventually raining down onto the planet's surface. Other particles will gain enough energy to escape the planet's gravitational pull and drift off into space, becoming part of the interstellar medium, the vast clouds of gas and dust that exist between the stars.
So it's got a cosmic recycling program.
In a way, yes. The universe is incredibly efficient at reusing and repurposing material. What was once part of a planet's rings might eventually end up as part of a new star or a new planetary system.
That's a pretty amazing thought. Okay, last question on Super Saturn. You mentioned those gaps in the rings suggesting the presence of exomoons. Could those moons eventually migrate out of the rings and become planets in their own right?
That's a great question, and it's one that astronomers are actively investigating. The gravitational dynamics within a ring system can be incredibly complex. Moons can interact with each other, with the rings themselves, and with the planet's gravitational field.
So it's a cosmic game of planetary billiards, essentially.
You could say that. And it's a game that's played out over millions, even billions of years. We're just getting a glimpse of these processes as they unfold.
And every glimpse reveals something new and surprising. It makes you wonder if there are planets out there that were once moons, or moons that will one day become planets. The possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. The universe is constantly evolving and changing. We are fortunate to witness these transformations, even if it's just a tiny snapshot in time.
It's a privilege to be able to look up at the night sky and know that there are entire worlds out there, each with its own unique story to tell. But I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and I don't want to overwhelm our listener with too much cosmic weirdness all at once. Maybe we should take a break here and come back to explore some more of these mind-boggling planets in our next episode.
That sounds like a plan. There's still so much more to discover.
Welcome back to Cosmos in a Pod, where we're on a deep dive into the most anomalous planets in the universe. We've already encountered planets that play hide and seek, planets that experience scorching temperature swings, and planets with rings that dwarf our solar system. What other cosmic oddities are out there waiting to be discovered?
We've really only just scratched the surface. The universe is full of surprises, and with every new exoplanet we discover, we're learning more about the incredible diversity of planetary systems out there. It's mind-boggling to think about all the strange and wonderful worlds that must exist, each with its own unique story to tell.
It's almost like the universe has an endless imagination when it comes to creating planets. So what other weird and wonderful planets are out there that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, we've discussed planets with extreme orbits and temperatures, but what about planets with extreme compositions? For example, there are planets that are thought to be made almost entirely of diamond. These planets formed in systems that were rich in carbon and under intense pressure and heat that carbon crystallized into diamond.
Planets made of diamond. That sounds like something out of science fiction. But it's a good reminder that the universe operates on scales of physics and chemistry that are hard for us to comprehend. What other extreme compositions have we found?
We found planets with molten iron rain, planets with atmospheres so thick they'd crush us instantly, and planets that are darker than coal, absorbing almost all the light that hits them. We've even found planets that seem to be made mostly of water. Giant ocean worlds with no land in sight.
It makes you wonder what life would be like on these planets, if it exists at all. What would a creature adapted to diamond rain or a perpetual ocean look like? It's both fascinating and a little bit terrifying to think about.
It is. And it really stretches our definition of what we consider habitable. We tend to think of life as needing conditions similar to Earth, but these anomalous planets are showing us that life might be far more adaptable and resilient than we ever imagined.
It's a humbling reminder that we're still very much in the early stages of exploring our universe. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about a particularly intriguing class of planets. Rogue planets. What are they and what makes them so anomalous?
Rogue planets are, in a sense, cosmic orphans. They're planets that have been ejected from their star systems either through gravitational interactions with other planets or through some other cataclysmic event. They wander through interstellar space, unbound to any star drifting through the galaxy like cosmic nomads.
So they're like planetary wanderers lost in the vastness of space. It's kind of a lonely thought, isn't it?
It is, but it's
Yeah.
also a reminder of the dynamic and often chaotic nature of planetary systems. We tend to think of planets as being neatly arranged around their stars, but the reality is that planetary systems can be incredibly unstable, with planets being ejected or colliding with each other.
It makes our own solar system seem remarkably peaceful and stable in comparison.
Okay.
Okay, one last question about rogue planets. If they're not orbiting a star, are they just frozen, lifeless worlds?
Not necessarily. While they don't receive direct sunlight, rogue planets can still generate internal heat through radioactive decay and tidal forces. Some scientists believe that this internal heat, combined with potential geothermal activity, could create subsurface oceans of liquid water even on planets far from any star.
So even in the darkest corners of space, there could be pockets of warmth and liquid water potentially harboring life as we don't know it. It's an incredible thought.
It really is, and it underscores the fact that we've only just begun to explore the vast tapestry of planetary diversity out there. Who knows what other strange and wonderful worlds are waiting to be discovered?
That's what makes astronomy so exciting. With every new discovery, we're expanding our understanding of the universe and our place within it. And that's a journey that never gets old.
Well said. It's a privilege to be a part of this grand exploration, and we can't wait to see what other mysteries the universe reveals to us in the years to come.
And to all of you listening out there, keep looking up at the night sky. You never know what wonders you might discover. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the most anomalous planets.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe to Cosmos in a Pod and our YouTube channel for more cosmic adventures.